Hi, it's Jordan Teen 1, and in this tutorial I'm going to be showing you how to make this really cute little Mickey Mouse coffee cozy or sleeve. So I have it on a larger cup here. This is a 24-ounce cup, but really I've tried it on different sizes and it seems to fit the same. And if you would need to adjust it, you can change the stitch count if you need it just a little bit larger or smaller. But I think this should work for most of your average size cups. And here's a peek at a Minnie Mouse one that I've been working on. So I think they make a really sweet little pair. To make your Mickey cozy, you're going to need a hook of some sort. So I have the Rainbow Loom metal hook. I'm going to use a twist tie to help me get the magic ring started. So that's optional, but it is very helpful. And then you're going to need a few clips or stitch markers. And then I have 2 white buttons. They're about 3/4 of an inch in diameter. I have 2 white bands. And then for the rest of my band count, I used approximately 366 black, 28 yellow, and 298 red. I'm going to start by making the chain, and so our actual whole chain is going to be a total of 35 bands, but I'm just going to do the beginning part here. So I have 12 black and 3 yellow. So I'm going to take my first black band here, I'm going to double this on my hook, so just twist and put it back on and you'll have 2 loops. And then one at a time you're just going to pull through, get the other end back on. And as you're forming this, if you pull down on the section that you're making, it really helps to open up the stitches and let your hook glide through a lot easier. So as I said, our total chain count is going to be 35, and you can measure around the base of your cup to see if you need a different stitch count. I think this is a good general size, but everything's a little bit different. So there I have my 12 black, and now I'm going to do my 3 yellow. And then I'm going to take a clip and I'm just going to attach it to these 2 loops on my hook. And I just want to tie that off for now so I can do my next part. Next I'm going to take 11 yellow bands and I'm going to finish the first foot. So here's my chain, and what I'm going to do is go in through the side. So you can see that where the bands are coming up through each one is the top and bottom. So you want to go in through the side from front to back, go under both loops, and I'm doing an increase in each of the first 3 chains. So an increase is just 2 bands in that same chain. So the first one goes through, one through the other, back through, pull through your second band, and now you should have 3 loops on your hook, one through the other too. Move over to the next chain, make sure you're keeping it nice and straight. There's 1, and then the increase, whoops, and then over to the third, 1, and 2. And now what I'm going to do is flip this over. So since the side we were going in is now facing the back, we want to continue going in through that side, so I'm going to go back to front. So I know it may feel just a little bit awkward, but you can see that there is this stitch right here that my band is coming up through, that my hook is on. I'm going to go from back to front, push under those 2 loops, and same thing, one through the other too. So we're just going to work our way back, and we should have a total of 5 stitches. So here's my last one. And then what I'm going to do is take my hook and I'm going to reach through both of the loops that are in my clip just to get that chain back on my hook. Next, I'm going to chain 5 black and 3 yellow. So you should have the 3 yellow bands on your hook, and you can carefully remove your clip, and you want to make sure the black goes through all 3 yellow and back on, and then you'll do 4 more black here. So this is just the spacing here in between the feet, and then I have 3 yellow, and we're just going to repeat this process all over again with forming the second foot. So I'm just going to add my clip, make sure it gets over both loops. I have my next 11 yellow bands, and then here's what we've formed so far. So you want to make sure that the piece that you've made here, this other foot, is facing up. Make sure your chain is nice and straight. Again, you're going in from the side, front to back, and you want this wrong side facing you. Remember, it's facing up. We're doing an increase, so that's 2 in the first chain, and then a second increase, and then finally a third increase, and then you're going to turn your work. Again, now we're having to go in from the back side. We're going to do 1 in each for a total of 5. So starting in the very end here, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then I'm going to just get these 2 loops back on my hook, and now you should have the correct side facing you. I have 12 more black bands to complete my chain. So again, you should have the 3 yellow, and you're just going to make sure you get through all 3. You can remove your clip, and then I'm just going to continue to chain. So hopefully everybody is finding this part fairly easy. I think if you're not used to going in the back of a stitch, doing that backwards, it does feel a little bit awkward at first. And you can go in through the front every time, but it gives it a little bit of a different look. So I have 1 left here, and I do want to connect this to the start. So before I do my last one, I'm just going to make sure this is nice and straight, every part of it here. You don't want anything to be twisted. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take one end off here, hold that in my fingers, I'm going to slide this on, and then slide this back on. So I just want to sandwich the one end in between the other two. And with this last band, I'm going to pull through everything back on, and then I'm going to take my clip, and actually I'm going to slide one through the other first, and then I'm going to take my clip and attach it. In rows 2 and 3, you're going to need 35 black bands for each, and it's just a matter of doing one single crochet in each stitch. So I will do the second row with you. So you want to make sure as you're going around here that your feet are pointing down, that this little half circle part is facing downward. And you want to make sure that your chain is nice and straight. And you can see how your foot is. If you use that as a starting point and just go smoothly, run your fingers along the bands, you should be able to tell where you need to go. So again, you're going from front to back. You're going in this very first one. There is a band, the one that we linked the two sides together, it already is through that, but we are going to go through that as well, from front to back under both loops. And it's just your regular single crochet where you pull through and then one goes through the other two. So it's just going to be one in each. And I can't stress enough that you really need to make sure that this is straight and that you're going through the right side of each of your chains. So I find that it's always helpful to count your bands out ahead of time, and that way you know that you have the right amount, and you don't always have to be continuously counting in your head. So when I get over here to the feet, it's just going to be the same exact thing. We're just going into yellow chains instead of black. So you can see here's our first yellow. Then here's my third. And now I have the 5 black in between. And once you get this first row done, it's going to be a lot easier because you'll definitely know where you need to go. You won't have to worry about your chain twisting. And then I should have 12 black chains here. And then that should take us all the way back to the start. So you can see my feet are kind of twisting, but that's okay. I'll straighten it out when I'm done the row. So I have 3 bands left here. Now when you get down here to the start, you're going to have where your clip is going to be your last. And again, we do have this one that there is a band already through where I connected it, but you do need to count that second to last stitch there. Make sure you go through that. And then your very last one should be where your clip is. And you need to go under both loops. And at the beginning I call them chains because we initially made a chain, but from this point on I'm going to say stitches. So just move your stitch marker or your clip. You can smooth this out. It tends to get a little bit curled in, but as I said, it'll straighten itself out when you get more rows. So you can go ahead and do this third row on your own here. It's going to be the same thing going around your 35 stitches. So you can pause now and I'll see you back here soon. In row 4 we're switching to red and you're going to need a total of 74 bands. So we are going to change our stitch pattern. We're going to do half double crochets, so you need 2 bands for each stitch, and we are going to do just 2 increases just to make it a little bit wider. So those increases are going to happen on stitch 9, and I don't have room to lay them all out, but it's going to happen again on stitch 27. So the way you do a half double crochet, you're going to go in your next stitch over, and the first one's going to start out a little different just because we're changing colors. So we're going to do a slip stitch. We're going to pull through all the black and get the other end back on. Then you're going to take your second band and you're going to pull through and back on. Then you're going to your next stitch over and you're going to pull through, back on, so you're going to have 4 loops, and then the second band is going to pull through all 4 loops and back on your hook. So that's the pattern. So go over to your next one. So the first band pulls through, back on, and then the second band will pull through the 4 loops. So you're going to notice that it's going to be a little bit higher because really it's about 2 bands high, and actually a band and a half. Technically that's your half double, and it's going to be a little bit more puffy. So I changed it up just because I wanted to differentiate where the pants are to make them stick out a little bit more. So we're doing this for 8 stitches. So this is my 7th. And then here's my 8th. And let me just move these out of the way. In stitch 9 we're going to do an increase. So I'm going under that 9th stitch, doing my first half double, and then back through that same stitch, and I'll do my second half double. Now we're going to do 17 stitches in between. So I'm just going to go ahead and count these out with you. So it'll take a little while to get around here. So that's 1, 2, and when you're pulling through those 4 stitches, if you feel like your hook's getting caught, just pull down on this main section to open up the stitches and then pull through. So that was 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 7, 8, 9, 10. You can see I'm sort of getting hung up there. And this should straighten out the more rows you put on. So that's 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, and 17. And now in this next stitch around here, it's going to actually be the 27th stitch from the start. You're going to put your increase. So there's one half double back through the same for your second, and then you should have 8 stitches left here. And then that's going to take you back to where your clip is. So hopefully you're getting the hang of the half double. At least it's my version of a half double. I think everybody that does Loomigurumi or even with yarn crochet kind of has their own definitions or their own way of doing things. So we have 2 left here. And your last one should go where your clip is. And then I'm just going to put my clip around both of these loops. In rows 5 through 7, you'll need 74 bands for each row. So you can see that they're all red, and we are doing that half double crochet into every stitch. So each row has a stitch count of 37. So you can go ahead and pause the video here. You can do these next 3 rows on your own, and then I will see you back here shortly. In row 8, you're going to need 37 black bands. We're going to switch back to single crochet, and it's going to be 1 in each. So I'll just start out this row with you, but I'll let you finish it on your own. So you're just going into your next stitch. We're going to start with a slip stitch since we're changing colors. So you want to go through everything that's on your hook. So you're just left with the 2 black and 1 through the other. And then it's just a matter of going to the next stitch and just doing that 1 single crochet in each. So this should be pretty straightforward here, and you should be pretty comfortable with doing these. So you're just going to continue the whole way around. In row 9, you're going to need 39 black bands. So we are going to do just a little bit more increasing on this. So I have the beginning of the pattern laid out for you. So on the 10th stitch we're going to do an increase, and then again I didn't have enough room to lay the whole thing out, but on the 28th stitch we're going to do our second increase. Now if you recall, on the previous row we had done a slip stitch, so even though this first black one may look like a true stitch, it is not. So you're skipping that, you're going to the next one over, and we're going to do a total of 9 single crochets. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. And then in the 10th stitch we're going to do our increase. So it should basically be up around the side here. Try to get them spaced out fairly evenly. And now we're going to do a total of 17 bands in between, so I'll count those out with you. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, and 17. And now this is going to be the 28th stitch from the start here. This is going to get our increase, and then that should leave you with a count of 9 to get you back to the start. So I won't bother to count these. So really we are getting down towards the tail end here. You should have pretty much the main bulk of it done. We just have a couple more rows, and then we're going to add the buttons and make the ears. And the ears really are pretty simple. So here's my last one. And if you notice here, there is kind of a big gap. So what I would recommend is push through that stitch, but then also go under maybe just a loop right here, and that'll just help to close off that gap a little bit. It's not necessary, but you just don't want a big hole there. I think that looks pretty good. And you can always keep reshaping this as you're forming it. In rows 10 and 11, you're going to need 39 bands for each row. and it's going to be 1 single crochet into each stitch. So since it's pretty straightforward, I'm going to go ahead and let you do those 2 rows on your own, so you can pause and do those now. Now I have 1 additional black band I'm going to use to just tie off this loose band. So let me just get this back on my hook. I'm going to go over to the next stitch, and then I'm just going to pull through everything, one through the other, pull that nice and tight. Let me get rid of my clip. And then all you need to do is just to hide the band. So I'm just going to go under some of these inside loops here. Just push through. Probably need to go under several. Gonna get my loop and just pull that through till it's all the way hidden. So then the main section is done. Next I'm going to attach the buttons. So I just have these white plastic buttons. They're about 3/4 of an inch in diameter, and then I have a white band that I used a needle and thread to string through here. And then I have 2 additional red bands that I'm going to use to anchor those on. So first I need to determine the placement. So obviously I want them kind of in the middle between the top and bottom, and I want them a little bit more centered. So maybe right like that. So I'll just take this one off for now, and I need to go in through the back, push my hook out, pick up the one side, pull that through, going to go over to the next little opening here in between the bands, and I'm going to grab the other side, pull that through, so I have the 2 white loops on my hook. It's going to take my red and pull through both, and then I'm going to do one through the other, make a nice and tight slip knot. I'm just going to leave that loose for the moment. And then with the second one, same thing. Just see about the placement. I'm going to come up through, get the one side to go to the back, and go right up to the next. Looks like I'm a little bit caught. Go right over, get the other half of that band, pull that through, and then once again do a nice and tight slip knot. So just make sure that you like the placement. So I think that looks pretty good. And then what I'm going to do is I'll just flip this inside out. I'm just going to hide these loops so you have some nice open spaces here. They're nice and loose, so you can just go through the middles and pull through, and do the same thing over here. And then your buttons are nice and secure. The ear is going to begin with a magic ring of 5, so for that I have 6 bands. So I will be using a twist tie just to help me get the magic ring started. So it's optional, but I do find it very helpful. So if you have that, just put it right next to your hook. And you're going to take your first band and triple that. So you just twist, back on, twist, and back on. So you have 3 loops. Just going to bend this in half. And then I'm going to pull the remaining 5 through one at a time. So there's 1, and I'm always pushing through front to back through those 3 loops. 2, 3, 4, 5. So I can remove this, add my clip, and then I'm just going to take a second and spread these evenly around the circle. In row 2 you need 10 bands, and we're doing an increase in every stitch. So we're doing 2 in each stitch. Should be familiar with increases. So I am going to do this first ear with you, and I'll let you do the second one on your own. If you've ever made anything around a magic ring, this should be pretty simple. For some reason I feel like this particular pack of bands that I am working with is extra thick this time. I actually just bought these at my local Michael's. I don't know if it's just the different lot or they've changed the thickness, but definitely are a little bit different than I'm used to. I'm going to move my clip. In row 3 you'll need 15 bands, and we're doing an increase in every other stitch. So you can see I have the 1 2 1 2 pattern. So we have a single in the first, followed by an increase in the second, and then that's just going to keep repeating until the end. So I wasn't sure exactly how big I was going to make the ears, or whether I was going to just do a half circle versus a whole circle. I tried a couple of different things, and I wound up figuring that just doing circles was about the easiest. And then I think really the part that is maybe the hardest, not that it's really hard, but just to get everything lined up perfectly, is when you actually have to attach the ears. So in that last stitch we're ending on an increase. And they are going to curve inward somewhat, but I am going to sort of stretch them out a little bit. I want them to be a little more flat than curved. In the fourth and final row of the ears, you're going to need a total of 20 bands. So the pattern is going to be 2 singles and an increase, repeating. So we're doing a single, and then a second single, and then in that third stitch we're doing an increase. And then we're just repeating that 1 1 2 pattern. We have 2 more sets here, and again you're going to notice that it sort of closes in, but when you're down the row you can Sort of stretch it out a little bit. Try and get it a little bit more flat. So here's our last set. And then once again you're ending on an increase. So let me just get this clip out of here. It's kind of in my way. Sometimes depending on where the clip lays, it sort of gets in your way of working. Add my clip. And again, I'm just going to sort of stretch this out. Not too far, but just so it's a little bit more flat. So you can go ahead and make a second ear. I'm not going to film that, but I will add the time to go back to if you feel like you want to follow along with the steps once again. The next thing I'm going to do before putting the ears onto the main body part is I'm going to secure off my loose bands. So I have one additional band for each of the ears, and I'm just going to put my hook back through, go to the next stitch over, and I'm just going to pull this band through everything, and then one through the other, and make a nice and tight slip knot. So then I can remove the clip. And then I'm just going to go under a couple of the bands here on the back. Doesn't really matter which. And I'm just going to pull this through and hide that loop. So I'm just going to repeat that process for the opposite ear. The final step is going to be to attach the ears onto the main part. So you're going to need about 6 to 8 rubber bands for that. So I have 8 laid out here. And as far as the placement goes, I'm going to try and put them kind of in line with the feet. So you want to attach them in the black section, and you probably want to think about the bottom half here, attach it sort of that way. If you do it up too high, it's going to lose stability, and also the ear is going to curl downward. So if you can get it about halfway, maybe just slightly above half, that would be a good placement. So I'm just going to line that up, and then from the back side I'm just going to push through the body part and then also the ear. Take a band and pull it through to the back, and I'm just going to move just slightly over, push forward, grab the other half of that same band and pull through to the back. So you can try your best to not get hung up. Sometimes you do catch other bands that you don't want, and then I'm just going to pull one through the other, and I'm just going to move slightly over, and again I'm going to push out and pull a band through to the back. Again, move over, grab the other half of that, pull through to the back. You're going to have the 3 loops on. I'm going to do one through the other 2. So as you're doing it, you can check out your placement if you think it looks good. And I'm going to do this one more time. So I'm going to come up through, pull through, come back out, through to the back, and one through the other 2. So with my last band here, I'm going to tie this off. So I'm going to go just a little bit away from where I'm coming up through, go under 1 or 2 loops on the back, take my last band, and I'm going to pull through both, make a nice and tight slip knot, and then that final thing is to just hide this loop. So just pull it under some of the bands on the back. and then it should be nice and secure. So you would just repeat that process for the opposite ear, and if there are any other places that you feel it should be tacked a little bit tighter, you can always just take any additional bands and do that same thing, pull through front and back, and then just make a slip knot and hide the loop. I hope that everyone loves their new Mickey cup cozies. You can always leave me comments on YouTube and Facebook. You can post pictures of your creations to my Facebook page, and please feel free to subscribe to my YouTube channel, so that way you can stay up to date on my latest tutorials. You can also find me on Pinterest and Instagram, so please feel free to subscribe to those as well, and post your pictures and comments there too. Thanks for watching!